Welcome, brave souls. Tonight, we journey into dusty attics where old secrets refuse to rest. Strange voices echo in the dark, and faded memories stir to life. If you dare to listen, come with us. The attic is waiting, and its whispers are eager to be heard. Eliza was a quiet girl who lived in a small town with her parents and little brother. She often felt lonely, so she spent most of her free time reading old books. One day, her family moved into a tall, narrow house at the end of a winding road. The house looked plain from the outside, but its sloping roof hid a mysterious attic. Everyone else ignored that attic because it smelled of dust and mildew, but Eliza felt drawn to it. The attic door was heavy and made of dark wood. It creaked when Eliza turned the knob. Inside, the air felt cold, and the only light came from a small window with cracked glass. Boxes were piled high, all covered with cobwebs. A single rocking chair stood in the corner, facing the window, as though waiting for someone. On her first visit, Eliza found a tiny wooden box under a sheet. The edges were worn, and a faded painting of dancing flowers covered its lid. When Eliza lifted the top, a broken tune tinkled out before going silent. She realized it was a music box, but it clearly needed repair. Something about its broken melody tugged at her heart. Each afternoon, Eliza returned to the attic to study the music box. She tried winding it tighter or tilting it, hoping the tune might play correctly. But no matter what she did, the tiny gears stuck. She grew more and more fascinated by the box. She imagined it once belonged to a lonely child who also sought comfort in music. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Eliza went up to the attic again. This time, she heard a soft whisper, like a breeze, but with words she could almost understand. She felt a chill race down her back. She turned around but saw no one. Carefully, she opened the music box, hoping it might give her a clue. At first, she heard only silence. Then, the broken melody began to play on its own, sounding clearer than before. As the notes played, Eliza sensed a presence behind her. She spun around, but the attic was empty. Still, the whispered words floated in the air. "Find me." Suddenly, the music box stopped. That night, Eliza slept with the music box by her bed, half expecting it to start playing on its own. The next day, she told her mother what she heard in the attic. Her mother shook her head and said it was just the wind. Eliza wanted to believe her, but she knew something else was there. She searched the attic again, looking through every old box and stack of newspapers. Then, behind a pile of dusty blankets, she discovered a hidden drawer in the wall. Inside it was a small diary wrapped in a ribbon. The diary belonged to a girl named Margaret, who lived in the house many years ago. Margaret wrote about feeling lonely. She loved her music box because it played a pretty lullaby when she felt sad. But one day, Margaret got very sick and never left her room again. Her last entry read, "If only someone could play the lullaby one more time, I would feel at peace." Eliza realized the soft whispers came from Margaret's spirit. She gently cleaned the music box and studied its inner parts, trying to fix it. After hours of careful work, the gears finally turned in the right order. The lullaby played smoothly, filling the attic with a sweet sound. As the final note ended, Eliza felt a calm presence drift by her. No more whispers were heard after that day. The attic felt warmer, as if the air were filled with gentle sunlight instead of shadows. Eliza returned the diary to its secret drawer, knowing she had helped Margaret find peace. From then on, whenever Eliza felt lonely, she played the newly fixed music box. She remembered the girl who only wanted someone to share her lullaby. The attic no longer frightened her. Now, it felt like a place where a restless heart had finally found rest. Oliver lived in an old house with too many locked doors and narrow hallways. The strangest part of the house was the attic. It was off limits, according to Oliver's parents, because the floorboards were weak. But Oliver was curious. When he discovered a loose board in the ceiling near his bedroom, he peeked through the gap and saw a large, oval mirror leaning against a wall. It looked like an antique, with a gold frame carved into twisted rose vines. Even though he knew it was wrong, Oliver decided to explore the attic alone. He waited until his parents left for the store and climbed up with a flashlight. Inside the attic, the air was thick with dust. Sheets covered strange shapes, and the floor squeaked with every step. In the corner, he found the mirror exactly as he had seen it. Its frame was covered in spiderwebs, and the glass looked cloudy. Oliver wiped the glass with his sleeve. At first, he saw only his own reflection, faintly shining in the dim light. But then something else caught his eye. A face behind his shoulder, too blurry to recognize. He turned around, but no one was there. When he looked back at the mirror, the face was gone. Oliver felt a cold sweat trickle down his neck. He tried to ignore the eerie feeling and explored the rest of the attic. The boxes were mostly filled with old clothing and letters from people he did not know. Yet, the mirror kept calling him back. Each time he glanced at it, he thought he saw movement. One time, it seemed like a small hand was pressed against the glass from the inside. At night, Oliver couldn't stop thinking about the mirror. He dreamed of a little girl looking out from the other side, her eyes full of fear. In his dream, she whispered, "Help me." When he woke up, he felt both afraid and curious. The next day, he hurried to the attic after school. This time, he brought an old photo album he found in the living room. It belonged to the house's former owners. In the album, he saw black and white pictures of a young girl with braided hair. In one photo, she stood next to the very same mirror in the attic. On the back of the picture, someone had written, "Catherine, 1923, lost but not forgotten." Oliver turned the photo over and saw a faint outline of the mirror's reflection. It showed Catherine's face, sad and distant. Suddenly, Oliver heard a soft voice behind him. He spun around, heart pounding, but saw nobody. Turning back to the mirror, he realized that the glass was no longer cloudy. Instead, he saw a clear image of the attic on the other side. But it wasn't his attic. It looked brighter, as if lit by sunlight from a different time. In the reflection stood Catherine, wearing a white dress and holding her braided hair with trembling fingers. She mouthed the words, "Help me," but no sound came out. Oliver felt a tear roll down his cheek. He reached out to the glass, and for a moment, it felt warm, as though Catherine was on the other side, alive yet trapped. Then, the image rippled like water, and she vanished. Oliver spent the next few days looking for any clue about Catherine. He searched more boxes and found a letter that said Catherine had vanished one day while she was playing in the attic. Her parents never found her, and they moved away. Heartbroken, Oliver wondered if Catherine was stuck in the mirror, waiting to be set free. With trembling hands, Oliver held the old photo of Catherine and stood before the mirror again. He pressed the photo to the glass and spoke softly. He told Catherine that she was not forgotten. He promised she could rest now. For a moment, the mirror glowed with a soft light. He saw Catherine smiling on the other side, her eyes full of relief. Then the mirror's surface returned to normal. From that day on, the mirror never showed any strange reflections again. Oliver felt peace in the attic, as if the air itself had changed. He placed the photo album on a small table beside the mirror, leaving a silent tribute to the girl who had once been lost. Though the mirror remained dusty and old, Oliver always remembered the little face he saw in its glass. Thankful he had helped set her free. Emma's family moved into a large Victorian home, surrounded by tall trees and a high iron fence. The house came with a warning from the real estate agent. The attic was rumored to be haunted. Emma's parents laughed it off, but Emma felt a pinch of curiosity. She was the kind of girl who believed in possibilities, even the strange and spooky ones. Her first week in the new house passed without trouble, but on the seventh night, as Emma lay in bed, she heard a soft tapping above her room. It sounded like light knocks on the attic floor. She shrugged it off, thinking it might be tree branches scraping the roof. The next night, the tapping came again, but this time it sounded like someone gently rapping on a door. Emma's parents said it was probably just the pipes in the old house. Determined to find out, Emma climbed the narrow stairs to the attic one afternoon. The room was dimly lit by a single window. Dust floated in the air, and wooden beams crisscrossed the low ceiling. Boxes labeled old family photos and Christmas decorations lined the walls. As Emma looked around, she noticed a small door near the far corner. It was so tiny that an adult would have to crawl on hands and knees to reach it. She tried the handle, but it was locked. Next to the door lay an old trunk with rusted hinges. It smelled of mothballs when Emma opened it. Inside, she found old letters, a few children's toys, and a small brass key wrapped in a lace handkerchief. She picked up the key, walked over to the tiny door, and slid it into the lock. With a gentle turn, the door opened. Beyond the door was a cramped little space where a ragged blanket and worn-out doll lay on the floor. Tucked into a corner was a diary with a purple cover, edges torn and pages yellowed with time. Emma opened it carefully and read the name Beatrice on the front page. She began to flip through the diary, discovering that Beatrice once lived in this house with her parents. Beatrice wrote about hearing strange whispers at night and feeling like someone was watching her from the shadows. Emma felt a chill. The writing was shaky, as if Beatrice had been scared while writing. In the last entry, Beatrice mentioned she had found a hidden spot in the attic to hide from the whispers. She planned to stay there until she felt safe. Emma realized that Beatrice had used this secret area to protect herself from something or someone in the house. As Emma read further, she found lines that said, "If anyone finds this, please help me." Emma thought of the knocking sounds she heard at night. Could it be Beatrice's spirit still trying to escape the attic? Emma wanted to give Beatrice the peace she never had. Gathering her courage, Emma spoke into the attic's stillness, saying, "Beatrice, I know you're scared. I'm here to help." At that moment, the air shifted. A faint sigh, almost like a breeze, echoed around the room. Emma continued reading the diary until she found a mention of a farewell note Beatrice left behind for her family. Beatrice wrote that the note was hidden under a loose floorboard by the window. She hoped her parents would find it. Emma searched by the window and soon found a board that lifted easily. Underneath, she discovered a folded piece of paper with faded ink. It read, "Dear Mama and Papa, I love you. I'm sorry I had to hide. I hope you find me soon." Emma felt her eyes water. She imagined a scared child alone in the attic, waiting for parents who never came. Emma carefully placed the diary and note together. She spoke again, hoping Beatrice could hear her. "I found your words. You're not alone anymore." A gentle hush seemed to settle over the attic. The tapping noises stopped that night. Emma felt a calm presence instead of the cold worry she'd known before. She placed the diary and note in a small wooden box and kept it in a safe corner of the attic. Every so often, she would go up and talk, believing Beatrice was listening. The attic no longer felt haunted. It felt like a place where a lost voice had finally been heard. Emma believed that wherever Beatrice's spirit was, she now knew she was not forgotten. Thank you for joining us in these shadowy corners where echoes of the past linger. Each story reminds us that behind every locked attic door lies a restless secret, yearning to be heard. Be sure to return for more unsettling tales, and remember, sometimes it's the quietest whispers that speak the loudest. Until next time, stay curious and stay brave.